I have to admit something to you guys today. I had successfully avoided training my calves for at least the last 10 years, but I fell off track this month. HVO sent me a calf raise machine. It just showed up at my door, and I opened it, put it together, and I started using it. And I'm still using it. Yeah. Let's go. What's up guys, Kyle with HypertroFit.com, the best place to design your home gym and develop your training program. If you enjoy home gym content, you are in the right place. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see plenty more videos just like this. I want to thank you all first and foremost for all the support that I've been shown the last month or so. We've really grown the channel quite a bit, and because of that, HVO actually reached out to me and sent me their 2-in-1 calf raise tibialis trainer. This is a piece of equipment that honestly I wouldn't have really gone out of my way to look for, but how could I say no to a free piece of equipment to check out? So this review is just my thoughts. They wanted me to give them an honest take on what this was like to have in a home gym, so that's exactly what I'm going to provide for you here today. So I would never have really been looking for a seated calf raise machine. Like I said, kind of tongue-in-cheek in the intro, but I really don't train my calves very often. I kind of gave up on that many years ago without much success. But I wanted to give this a shot because obviously being able to bring that back into my regular training couldn't hurt. So let's see what they've got. Now, honestly, if this was just a seated calf raise machine, I would have probably declined just because on its own, that really doesn't excite me. It doesn't interest me. But what intrigued me was the fact that this machine also has a built-in tibialis raise. So if you're unfamiliar, the tibialis is actually the muscle on the front of your lower leg, the front of the shin, and it raises your toes up, whereas your calves are pushing them down. So what makes this really interesting is we can actually train both facets of the lower leg and do it in a really cohesive manner because we don't have to set up a new piece of equipment or a new station. We just have it right there. And so because both of these were coming together, that's why I decided to go forward with this review. Now, prior to this, I had never actually interacted with HVO or looked into any of their products. They definitely seem to be more budget oriented, which can be really nice when you're putting together a home gym. And with that budget type of equipment, you do have a little bit less quality in a couple different facets. In terms of putting the calf raise, tibialis raise together, it was actually really simple, really straightforward. Maybe took me 45 minutes to get the entire thing together. There were a couple different pieces that were a little bit bent, a little bit off. So like one of the tibialis raise bars sits a little bit higher than the other one. There are little plastic end caps on some of the handle pieces that are a little bit chewed up, and the band peg on the right side was a little bit bent up for me. None of this stuff would actually impact the usage of the machine, but there were a couple different deformities there that came from the shipping, but we put it together and started to use this to see how it actually felt. And overall, my first impressions were really good. Now, something to kind of keep in mind when you're purchasing different tiers of equipment, we'll call it, the more range of motion an exercise has and the more load that an exercise needs, the more I would say you want to invest a lot of money into a good piece of equipment. And on the flip side of that, if you're moving less and the range of motion is small and you don't need a ton of load, then you can get away with more of a budget piece. And that's exactly where this falls in, because with a calf raise, you're barely moving through space. Same thing with a tibialis raise. They're very short ranges of motion, and neither one of them take a lot of weight. Sure, you can kind of load up calf raises and jerk it around, but it's not doing anything for you, and even then you can only go so heavy. So in this case, having a budget machine to occupy these two movements is actually not a bad idea at all. And so with that being said, I think that for what they are offering here, it's a decent build. You're not going to expect super premium and materials and fit and finish, but the overall end result of the exercises themselves is really smooth. So for a seated calf raise, the main thing that I would be looking for is a nice stretch at the bottom, a solid, stable foot plate, and then plenty of range of motion at the top, no matter how tall or short that you are. And that's exactly what this provides. The stability of the machine is pretty solid. There's a little bit of give left and right, but nothing that you're really gonna notice while you're doing the exercise. So overall, it felt really nice and smooth to me for a seated calf raise. Now on the tibialis side of things, I'll be honest, when I first started trying the Tibialis Raises, I really wasn't impressed. I was just setting up like I would for the seated calf raises, but just moving my feet in the opposite direction, trying to lift my toes. And what I found immediately was that my range of motion was terrible. There was no stretch at the bottom. I was like, this is strange. Like, it almost doesn't even seem like anybody tried to use this. But as I played with it a little bit more, what I realized was I just couldn't set up in the exact same way. So if I was using the Tibialis raise, I actually had to sit further back on the seat and then try to get my lower legs more parallel with the floor. So nowhere near actual parallel, but less of a 90-degree angle at the knees. What that allowed me to do is get a much deeper stretch at the bottom, so my toes were pointed more forwards, and then I could get a much nicer range of motion at the top and actually really start to feel that tibialis squeeze and actually work. It's not perfect in terms of the range of motion. I'd say it's probably like 80% of the way there, but it's honestly pretty good. And the fact that it's built directly into the machine so that you can go right from the calf raises to the tibialis raises is what I think is a really valuable piece here. It's also nice that they are weighted separately, so you can have whatever weight that you need directly on the calf raise for the calf raise exercise, and then the tibialis raises are loaded entirely separately, so you don't have to worry about swapping out weight. You can have those distinct exercises set and ready to go. Price-wise, like I said, we are in the budget category here. So this 2-in-1 machine is coming in at $269. It's on their Amazon webpage, and they do also have a standalone seated calf raise without the tibialis raise. If you wanted that, that is cheaper. But honestly, I think that if you are going to take up the space for a piece of equipment like this, you should just get the 2-in-1, because that extra exercise isn't taking up any additional space and is just built right into the machine. I believe it also comes in a second color scheme of just all black. I have the black and red here, and I don't know how the camera is picking this up, but I could tell immediately when I unboxed this that the red is actually a lot darker than it looks on the Amazon storefront. So just keep that in mind, depending on which route that you decide to go with this. Overall, again, the materials and the fit and finish, they're not amazing, but it is a budget piece, and for what it's looking to do and accomplish, I think it does it quite well. And being able to throw those exercises together at the exact same place and just superset things without going from one station to the next, I think is really valuable, especially in terms of training in a home gym. So my final thoughts, I think this is honestly a pretty solid piece of equipment if this is what you're looking for. Do I think that seated calf raises and tibialis raises are the most important exercises in the world? Absolutely not. I would definitely direct people towards some other pieces before they start looking at this. But if you are interested in working on, say, more ankle mobility, more ankle stability, and building the entire musculature of the lower leg, then this is a great option. The seated calf raise is going to allow you to get more into the soleus. It's not the best for overall calf hypertrophy, but it is an ingredient. And then you would also want some sort of straight-legged version of a calf raise. But pairing that up with the tibialis raise is honestly an overlooked element of hypertrophy of the lower leg. And so again, having a piece of equipment that's going to do both of these things for you, I think could be really beneficial if that is your goal. I'll be perfectly honest, when I had HVO reach out and they wanted to send this to me, my initial plan was like, cool, I'll check out the piece of equipment, I'll do the review, and then I'll probably sell it because I don't really see myself using this. But honestly, I've had this in my gym for almost a month now, and having it set up, it takes up very little space, and I find myself using it all the time because it doesn't take a lot of effort to get into, but it allows me to get a little bit of extra volume during my leg days, or even other body parts where it's just like, yeah, in between some resting sets, I'll go hop on, knock out some calf raises, knock out some tibialis raises, and the overall pump from both sides of the lower leg honestly feels pretty nice. So I'm pleasantly surprised, and I actually plan to keep it now. So what was originally going to be just kind of review, let go, and move on to the next thing, I think is actually going to stick around for a little bit longer than I planned. So if you guys enjoyed this video, consider looking at my affiliate links in the description below. You can check out my other links if you're interested in the coaching or gym design options that I provide, and I will look forward to catching up with you guys in the next video.